A. Nouns relating to difficulties.
Fairly small difficulties. A snag. A hitch. A glitch. Glitch usually refers to a technical problem of some kind. The other two words are more general. More important difficulties. A setback means that progress has been stopped by something. A stumbling block is something that prevents action or agreement. A pitfall is an unexpected difficulty, often used in the plural. An obstacle is anything that stops progress, either literally or metaphorically. An impediment is something that prevents free action, progress, or movement. A dilemma is a situation where a difficult choice has to be made between two, sometimes unpleasant alternatives. An ordeal is a severe experience, which is very difficult, painful, or tiring.
B. Adjectives relating to difficulty.
Problematic. Full of problems or difficulties. Collocations, relationship, situation, concept. Abstruse. Difficult to understand. Collocations, theory, argument, philosopher. Arduous. Difficult, tiring, needing much effort. Collocations, climb, task, journey. Complex. Difficult to understand as it has many parts. Collocations, issue, problem, theory, process. Convoluted. Unreasonably long and hard to follow. Collocations, explanation, sentences, theory. Grueling. Extremely tiring and difficult. Collocations, journey, work, match, expedition. Insufferable. Difficult to bear as it is annoying or uncomfortable. Collocations, behavior, heat, boredom, pain, person. Obstructive. Causing deliberate difficulties. Collocations, person, measure, behavior. Tough. Difficult to deal with or do. Collocations, time, job, climate, decision. Traumatic. Shocking and upsetting. Collocations, experience, past, childhood. Wayward. Changeable, selfish and or hard to control. Collocations, behavior, child, person.
C. Informal expressions relating to difficulties.
Oh dear, more homework. What a pain. Oh dear, more homework. What a drag.
The software is good for editing still images, but editing video is a real chore.
What's eating him? What's got into him? What's bugging him? What's up with him?
I can't face the hassle of moving house again.
My daughter keeps hassling me for a new bike.
Having to listen to him singing is sheer torture.
To slog your guts out. To grind. To graft. To flog yourself to death.
In a fix. In a spot. In a hole. Up against it. Up to your neck.
The company's in a sticky situation now the workers are going to strike. The company's in a tricky situation now the workers are going to strike.
I think I'm off the hook now. I think I'm in the clear now. I think I'm out of the woods now.
The downside of living here is the traffic thundering by.
A. Expressions based on modal verbs.
I must admit that I didn't enjoy the film. I must confess that I didn't enjoy the film. I must say that I didn't enjoy the film.
You want me to lend you £1,000? You must be joking.
You must have been frightened when you heard the news. You must have been worried when you heard the news. You must have been nervous when you heard the news. You must have been delighted when you heard the news. You must have been overjoyed when you heard the news.
Don't look so miserable. It may well never happen. Don't look so miserable. It might well never happen.
What, may I ask, was the point of throwing your pen on the floor like that? What, might I ask, was the point of throwing your pen on the floor like that?
I was just strolling through the park when who should I see but my boss? I was just strolling through the park when who should I meet but my boss? I was just strolling through the park when who should I bump into but my boss?
Don't worry about spilling the wine. Accidents will happen.
The car won't start. What can I do?
That'll be Sean making that noise. He always plays his music very loudly. Why are you so gloomy? The interview didn't go badly. You might well be offered the job, you never know.
I should be so lucky. All the other candidates were better qualified.
B. Ways of expressing probability.
The odds are he'll get the job.
The odds are against her passing the exam.
They are bound to get married in the end.
She's unquestionably the best student in the class.
It was apparent that the negotiations were going badly.
She'll be here by 5 o'clock for sure.
In all probability, we'll get the job finished on time.
If you are not highly disciplined when you go on a diet, the chances are you won't succeed.
There's every likelihood that the price of petrol will rise soon.
C. Ways of expressing obligation and lack of obligation.
It is essential that you should take strong footwear with you.
Wearing a safety helmet is obligatory in this area.
The road was blocked. We had no option but to turn back.
We have an obligation to preserve the school's good name.
Some courses are optional, but maths and English are compulsory.
D. Ways of expressing a desire to do something.
I am determined to do whatever I can to help. I am anxious to do whatever I can to help. I am eager to do whatever I can to help. I am keen to do whatever I can to help. I am resolved to do whatever I can to help.
He wishes to return home. He desires to return home. He yearns to return home. He longs to return home.
She has ambitions to become Prime Minister. She has aspirations to become Prime Minister.
A. Changes in numbers and quantities.
During the 5 years 2010 to 2015, Internet use across the world was estimated to have increased twofold, while in China it quadrupled. In the developing world, Internet use grew by a factor of 3.
The drastic changes in interest rates resulted in a threefold increase in the number of people unable to keep up their mortgage repayments.
The estimated number of stars in the Milky Way has been revised upwards in light of recent discoveries.
The weather patterns have deviated from the norm in recent years.
Sales fluctuate from month to month.
Interest rates have seesawed all year.
Share prices have been erratic this last month.
B. More expressions for describing statistics and numbers.
When the different amounts were added up, the aggregate was £600,000.
I've aggregated all the figures.
The finance minister said the July rise in inflation was only a blip.
There seems to be a correlation between mathematical and musical ability.
The percentage of GDP expenditure which goes on education varies considerably from country to country.
There's a discrepancy between our figures and yours.
The ratio of men to women in the engineering faculty was 3-1.
The company's figures were found to be flawed, and the accountant was fired.
She suffered multiple injuries in the accident.
Our data are inconsistent with yours.
C. Assessing quantity.
Let me give you a ballpark figure of how much money we expect to make this year. If I tot everything up, we begin to run into 6 figures. There are a lot of variables, and our projected figures may not be all that accurate. So I've erred on the side of caution, and I've rounded things down rather than up in order to give you a conservative estimate.
A. Permitting and agreeing that something may happen. Verbs. All these verbs are formal and many are typically found in newspapers.
Accede, accept, but often associated with initial unwillingness. For example, the factory owner acceded to the workers' demands. Acquiesce, permit something to happen, but often associated with a degree of secrecy or conspiracy. For example, the foreign minister acquiesced in the plan to restrict imports from certain countries. Assent, agree to something, often associated with plans, proposals, ideas, and so on. For example, the shareholders assented to the takeover. Authorize, give official permission. For example, only authorized people are allowed entry. Condone, approve or allow something which most people consider to be wrong. For example, the judge condoned the use of reasonable force by police officers. Countenance, consider giving assent or permission, often used in negative contexts. For example, no government would ever countenance abolishing taxes altogether. Endorse, give official approval to something. For example, the Cabinet has endorsed a proposal to change the way universities are funded.
B. Permitting. Phrasal expressions.
The committee have been given carte blanche to investigate the problem and come up with a solution.
The city has given the go-ahead for the new car park. The city has given the green light to the new car park.
C. Prohibiting and disapproving. Verbs.
Bar, officially exclude, forbid someone access to something. For example, 3 students were barred from using the library because they had damaged books. Clamp down, use your full power to prevent or limit something. For example, the government has decided to clamp down on illegal immigration. Outlaw, make something illegal. For example, Parliament has passed a bill outlawing smoking while driving. Veto, use your official power to forbid. For example, the President has vetoed the plan to open membership of the club to the public.